2008, a venture capitalist handed me a business plan. He has never handed me one since, and he had never handed me one before. And as is our way, I was reading the business plan aloud to Mary, my business partner, as we were driving to a client meeting. And it was in the area of female sexual satisfaction. And we said, wow, this category is pretty interesting. There were 53 active clinical programs, and now there are 2. Women don't talk about satisfaction to anybody, not their doctors, not their sisters, not their cousins, not their friends. It's one of the few categories, and we've worked with women from the tops of their heads to the tips of their toes. It's one of the very few categories that women don't seem to talk about with other people. And I want to be very clear, we're talking about women 35 plus in committed relationships. So often when I say that, people say, well, I'm in college and that's all we do. It's a very different conversation when it's in the context of a committed relationship. So we're reading about this and we say, big market, 40% of women have sexual concerns and difficulties. The market is tiny. ED, which affects 31% of men, is a multi-billion-dollar business. This is a huge, huge opportunity. And it was, from our standpoint, the perfect storm of marketing. So if you have a huge opportunity, you have a product that actually works, and that is not irrelevant, that's central to the conversation. You have an enormous need, no conversation, and lots of people who have been looking at this. We were introduced to the company on April 30th, and September 2nd, we had a check from venture capitalists in the same year, the 2 of us, and a product and a business. So, and you can imagine, having spoken to many entrepreneurs, that an entrepreneur's day is 24 hours long. I couldn't have told you when day was or night was. I couldn't distinguish weekdays from weekends. But one of the things that was so astounding to me when we were fundraising was it felt a little bit like stepping back in time. I graduated from Stanford Business School, very egalitarian atmosphere, very egalitarian environment. And so I thought, I'm walking into venture capitalists in Silicon Valley talking about a product that, by the way, improves arousal, desire, and satisfaction for women of all ages and life stages. Sounds pretty good. The business had a lot of potential in terms of growth. We had some footholds in some major retailers. I thought I'd get into these meetings and immediately talk about the opportunity and how big it could be, how high is up. What I found is we would walk into these meetings, and the first question that I would get was, how is it different than Viagra? And I would give a detailed explanation about how that worked on the circulatory system and an increased blood flow to the genitals, which for men increased sensation and satisfaction because it worked like a hydraulic pump. And I'm describing the science behind this, and I see their eyes glaze over. Or they'd say, what does this product do for me? And we'd say, well, it's really about her. It's her satisfaction, and in the research, it's clear that he enjoys it more because of her satisfaction. Still glazing a little bit. This was during a period of 2 days when we had 12 appointments at different large funds. So we didn't want to leave there without interest. And I should mention that this was in 2008 when the bottom of the financial world was dropping out. So here we are, 2 women who they consider first-time entrepreneurs because we had run a service business, talking about vaginas and asking for money. So after the first couple, I realized it wasn't working. And so Mary and I strategized, and we came up with a new strategy. And I'm pretty extroverted and like to think that I have a sense of humor. And I walked into the 3rd office. Now understand that they all start to look alike when you come in as an entrepreneur, when you're doing them that quickly. I walk in and I said, here's $100. I'm going to put this on the table. If anyone in this room says a pun, a sexual innuendo that I haven't heard before, or anything that makes me blush, this $100 is yours. This product works. She likes it more. She wants to have it more. Let's talk about the business model. And we got people's attention. Does it take a certain kind of person to feel comfortable speaking like that? Probably. But one of the things that I realized is, as comfortable as I was with the topic, and as much of my professional career as I had spent presenting and trying to sell ideas, that this particular category created some new challenges. So we looked at it, Mary and I looked at it really as, this is another puzzle we have to solve. Now, I have stories that I can't even believe, actually happened. And at some point, there's a book title that I think, my mom said there would be days like this, or, On the Road with a Vagipreneur. Because I'm talking about 2008, two professionals. I'm in Silicon Valley. I'm connected to Stanford. Most of the venture capitalists that we met with either went there or had relationships there or had invested with people who came from there. So I'm going in with, a couple decades of experience and a lot of credibility, as was Mary. And we're sitting in what feels like a 7th grade locker room. And I would say, this feels like a 7th grade locker room to Mary. And then I said, wait, but I know 7th graders. They're way more mature than what's going on in these meetings. But ultimately, we kept our eye on the goal. The goal was to convince people that we could grow this business and that it was a huge opportunity, and that some of the dynamics that they saw happening in the male market and the huge amounts of money that pharmaceutical companies had made could also be made on the female side of the equation.